What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with the week that's coming up. I want to break down what's going on with the FOMC meeting, not to mention big earnings coming out. You should be watching for in the charts for Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, NQ, and many tickers out there. But let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total. And the offer ends very soon in just about 5 days from now. Anyways, now I just wanted to break down what's happening to Tesla. So as you guys could see, Tesla's looking pretty decent right here. We actually established a higher low relative to this low. You could even argue that this resembles a strange looking inverse head and shoulders. It's still very possible that this could be playing out, and the market does have some more upside potential for next week. That also depends if the market can break some key resistance levels. So I'll break down all of that in just a couple of minutes. But just know we have a very important week ahead of us. First and foremost, Monday is going to be very minor. There's not really much coming out, just some bill auctions. For Tuesday, we have the JOLTS job openings reports, which is going to be very important employment numbers. And then for Wednesday is going to be a huge day because we have the FOMC meeting. We have Jerome Powell giving a speech. We have the Fed press conference and very important decisions to be made. The market's expecting the Fed to keep rates the same, so I can't wait to see what we end up seeing for Wednesday. For Thursday, we have some manufacturing numbers in the ISM manufacturing and PMI reports. That's going to be very important to understand how these sectors are doing for the economy. And then finally, for Friday, we have unemployment numbers. So Wednesday to Friday is going to be very intense for the data. Lots of big data is coming out from the ISM numbers to FOMC, not to mention unemployment numbers. So Wednesday through Friday is going to be huge. And then on top of that, we have something else that's going to be big for the week. This is going to be pretty big. First off, on Monday, we have McDonald's announcing earnings, which is very minor. Tuesday through Thursday, however, is when earnings go pretty insane. For before the market opens on Tuesday, we have SoFi and PayPal. Then we have AMD and Microsoft coming out the same day after market close. For Wednesday, we have ARM and Meta announcing earnings after market close. And then for Thursday, we have Moderna in the morning, not to mention Amazon, Intel, Apple, and Coinbase all announcing earnings after the market closes. So for earnings, typically we get the really big reactions, I would say, between Wednesday and Friday, since that's when we're going to see a lot of reactions to a lot of these. AMD and Microsoft announced their earnings after market close, and that's when we're going to see a big reaction. So by after close going into Wednesday, that's when we were going to be looking for some interesting volatility. So in my opinion, okay, just to be very frank, there's going to be a lot of volatility between Wednesday and Friday. It's going to be absolutely insane for the markets. We could get some high volatility, especially on Tuesday, considering how things are looking. And I think that Monday is going to be the least data-based day. There's not going to be as much data coming out, so the market will have a lot more leeway. And this opens the doors for more interesting technicals to kind of take over. There's not much going on with SPY's options chain, except for Friday. We have a lot of puts expiring. For Tesla, I saw this headline come out. Tesla is warning against using the wet towel trick to speed up charging. And this is actually very important news. So, what's going on is there are people on Twitter, on X, or all over who are basically saying that you could almost increase the charge rate from 58 kilowatt hours to about 119 kilowatt hours. You could basically do it much, much faster. That's actually very, very important. The reason why this is important is because people believe this and they're starting to actually get some wet rags and wrap them around the cables when trying to charge their Teslas. However, Tesla's come out right here and they're saying that actually that's not a good idea. Tesla said, and I quote, placing a wet cloth on the supercharger cable handle does not increase the charging rates and it interferes with temperature monitors, creating risks of overheating or damage. Please refrain from doing this in our systems because in order for them to run correctly, that's a very, very important procedure. And then true charging issues can be detected by their systems. They need that to also work through. So it's very, very important to remember, guys, that it's not a good idea to do this. This affects the temperatures. It could actually change a lot of different things. It can also damage not only the cables, but also your Tesla. So be very careful in doing this. This is what Tesla claims. So I'd be careful. I wouldn't necessarily do this. I wouldn't put a wet towel around electronics, especially charging cables. So be very, very careful when it comes to doing so. Now, another solution for people who are worried about things overheating would be if they could find an area that has shade or any kind of like roofs on top of them. It's kind of hard to find supercharger areas that always have those, but there are some out there. So you want to be very careful. But I just wanted to call that out to be very, very careful with the Teslas and to watch for this. Anyways, going back to Tesla, what do I see for the share price? Tesla has a nice accumulation structure. We've been stuck between 225 and about 212 for pretty much the entire week. We're only down to 212 for just one instance. We actually were above 215 for the most part. So that's our range right here. With this inverse head and shoulders like structure, I think there's a very good chance that Tesla will try to retest 225. As long as there's no bad news, I think we could try to break this and start pushing for 232 plus. So I see upside potential in Tesla if we break past 225. Now on SPY, we're looking a little bit more bullish to me because what happened was we had a low that was established in the 537s and then we held support. Today we got a nice rebound retesting the high. So we have this range between basically this 540 area and about 547, but we're trying to make higher highs and higher lows. And we simultaneously have a big George W that's forming. So that's just a colloquial term that my friends and I usually use, calling this a big George W. But it's the same thing essentially. This W pattern is forming on SPY. If we break past 548, we'll easily start pushing for 552. This looks a bit more bullish, and I think that approaching next week in anticipation of the big tech earnings, we might see a little bit of a push for the excitement. Nvidia is just consolidating. We're actually getting tighter and tighter and tighter on Nvidia. So I'll just have to see how this ends up reacting. 3 days in a row, we've been stuck between 118 and about 112. So we'll see what this ends up doing. If this is a nice inverse head and shoulders, we want to see it break past 116. If that breaks, 118 plus could be coming. We'll see if that ends up being the case or not. For Bitcoin's looking a little bit more bullish to me. We'll have to see if we could break past 68,000. If that breaks, we'll be looking for a bigger push. Overall, it's looking more bullish in my personal opinion. But we'll look for a test of 68,500 potentially. Looks pretty good so far. For SPX, or I'm sorry, ES, I'm going to talk about that first. This has a bullish structure. We're actually forming a nice looking test of resistance. We're actually above our 50 EMA. And I could be looking for a test of 55, 58 if we end up breaking past the resistance of the day. So I do see potential in ES to push higher. SPX is looking pretty good because we've held support forming a double bottom. And then we have this big gap to fill up here. So if we manage to break past 5,500, we could be pushing to fill the gap towards 55.55. And that's actually looking more bullish. That favors upside as well. For NQ, the chart is more bullish because, as you guys can see, we're holding support right here where this trend line is. If we could try to break past 19,250, I think we could be pushing for 19,500. There's a little bit more potential in this, but the QQQ is kind of just getting tight right now, not really doing much. I do see a little bit of potential for this to try to break, but it's not looking as strong as SPY. If we lose 460, we could turn back down. If we break 466, we turn more bullish. My gut is telling me this might try to push a little higher to try to break 466 or 50 EMA, but we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. I just see it kind of like consolidating for a bit before you see a big move, but my gut tells me it might be the upside. Same thing with Apple. We're just getting tighter and tighter, but before earnings, we might see Apple try to push a little bit. That's typically what happens to the share price. So we'll see if that ends up being the case or not. I think that this will just continue to get tight for next week and then maybe possibly try to break out. If we break past 220, we'll have to see if that ends up being the case. For the IWM, we're looking more bullish, very, very nice looking uptrend. Look at 225 and see if that breaks. If that does break, we could be pushing for 227 plus. So it looks a little bit more bullish to me. For Coinbase, we have a nice bullish structure. If we break past 244, we could be pushing all the way up towards the resistance where this trend line happens to be. If we lose support at 240, we'll be dipping back down, but this is favoring like it wants to push higher. For Amazon's looking a little bit more bullish on the hourly time frame. If we continue to break out here, I'll be looking for 184. If that breaks, we push higher. It looks like it has potential with a nice inverse head and shoulders, but we'll see if we break past 184 or not. Still have to wait for that big test. Meta looks a little bit more bullish. We're actually holding support above that 460 area. So I see potential for 468. If that breaks, 474 is likely coming. Let me just do two more, then I'll conclude the video. For Microsoft, it looks like it's trying to rebound, but we got to try to break past 430. There's no confirmation of a true break yet, unless we break 430 to hit 432 plus. But I see some potential for this to form a cup. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Google is also forming a nice bullish divergence, but we got to break past 170 for confirmation. We haven't done that yet. So we'll see. So Google and Microsoft are a little bit lackluster, but Amazon and Meta have a little bit more potential. Maybe things could shift for Microsoft depending on earnings. As we approach earnings, typically there's like a lot more excitement, a lot more hype. So we'll see how things go. Anyways, that is it for my video. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Just know that SPY is looking a little bit more like it wants to bounce. I'll give you guys another big updates tomorrow just to talk about how the market is looking. But until then, take care, guys. Enjoy the weekend. I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.